All right, welcome back to the Rush Hour Podcast, the 15-minute podcast where we talk about various Yu-Gi-Oh topics. And today we're going to be talking about time etiquette. So basically, Eric and I went to RBE2 New York, and there were a couple situations that happened, not only there, but at every Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, but the most recent one was RBE2 New York, where two players were going into time in like round 7 or 8. One of those, it was one of the last 2 rounds. And as soon as it got to like the last 20 seconds, one of the guys decided to just start going crazy, playing extremely fast, like special summon Swap Frog, discard this, send Treeborn to the graveyard, activate Rhoda, search out Elemental Hero Ocean, bounce Swap Frog to my hand, discard the Ocean, special summon Swap Frog again, this time send Substitute, activate Miracle Fusion, summon 2 zeros, wipe your field down, tribute the Swap Frog because I still have a normal summon for Caius, your thing, attack for game. And it's like, okay, well, time was called while you were doing your crazy run of just playing all your cards and trying to rush the last 20 seconds to get to the battle phase. And I hate that. I hate when people do this, and a lot of people do this. They get to the last like minute of the game and all of a sudden they want to become Sonic the Hedgehog. And my thing is always like this. If you wanted to play that fast, why did you wait until the clock literally had a minute left before you decided that it matters to play faster? I just think that, like, as a community, and this is not just Edison, I'm sure that there's modern, because we follow the same time rules as modern, everybody should just play faster as opposed to waiting until there's like a minute left on the clock and then becoming Speed Racer. What do you think?
Okay, so to be fair, for the Sonic thing, you have to do that if you're in that situation.
But that's so bad though, because it's not actually proper gameplay either. You can't just start playing 20 cards without a response.
Yeah, I mean, the other guy's back row, definitely you can't do that.
You really can't do that anyway though. Like, here's the thing. Every single play that you do as your opponent, I still want to make sure that what you're doing is legal. And if you're just like trying to quickly go like special summon Swap Frog, send Treeborn, grab my deck, throw this into the graveyard real quick, activate Rhoda, search out Ocean, bounce the Swap Frog back to my hand, just like play Miracle Fusion, do us, banish these 2, just throw the 2 cards to the side. Once you're doing all of that, it's so messy. And then I get afraid that, like, I don't know where your hand is. I don't, like, you just picked up your deck. I didn't even shuffle it. You're fucking throwing cards, you're banishing cards, you're summoning cards, you're tribute summoning now. So I have to track, like, did he use his normal summon? Did he send the proper thing? Did he use the right targets for this? It's a lot. And Yu-Gi-Oh has steps to it that, yes, we'd like the shortcut, but then when you try to do literally 30 actions in 30 seconds, it's like, all right, bro, like, I get it. I know you want to get to your battle phase, but again, why not just play a little faster? The other 44...
You should have been playing faster for sure. If you're slow playing the whole time and then all of a sudden I don't know you're doing that, then that's a different story.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about with etiquette. It's just like people have kind of bad time etiquette, I noticed, and I don't think anybody really talks about it. We all just kind of accept it because you're right. When you say that's what you're supposed to do, it is kind of like what everyone does when they get to that point. But I just think if you play faster in general, you wouldn't have gotten to that point.
Yes.
And I played in RBT New York. I didn't go into time a single round. I did come close one round against a Machina control player who just played really slow. He particularly took long to side deck, and I did ask him after I noticed that, like, he had been side decking for over 3 minutes. And I said, hey, could you wrap this up?
You have
like,
to tell him to hurry up. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, we haven't even gotten into the game. Game 1 is over. This is going, he won game 1 because he drew triple gear frame. I was playing Black Wings. He drew triple gear frame and he won game 1. But he just took like so long to side deck. And then I won game 2 really quick. And then I won game 3 really quick. And it was like, game 1 just took so long though that we were close to going into time. By the time I think we finished our match, it was like 2 minutes on the clock. And that was the closest I got all day. But I don't like going into time. Obviously, I can't control it. Sometimes you will go into time. I'm not shitting on people who go into time. I'm not saying that going into time makes you a bad player or anything like that. But if you're going into time too much every event, you're probably the problem.
So I have a story to tell about this one. At YCS India, the tournament you won, Rick, who top 8'd, was playing Hero Beat, right? And he was playing against a frog guy, and this is so funny. Basically, the other guys do block on the field, and Rick is just draw, pass, draw, pass, draw, pass. And they're about to go into time. And there's a judge standing right there because they're like the very last match of the whole round. And then Rick rips Super Poly, and time is about to be called. And then Rick just goes, and Rick has 0 on his field.
Yeah.
So he goes like, he does this, it's kind of the Sonic the Hedgehog thing, but he just goes like, Super Poly, Ab-Zero, blow your stuff up, attack for game, you know? Well,
Yeah.
not attack for, I don't know if it was game or life
Attack
difference, but
for,
whatever.
yeah, attack for where
a
it
lot.
matters.
Yeah, and then but time gets called, and then the other guy is kind of like whoa, like he's trying to obviously stall a little bit because he knows
Right.
time about to be called, and the judge is like right there showing them the time. But basically, time gets called before he officially declares an attack because the other guy like stalled a little.
Yeah.
But the judge said the intent is there. Obviously, this is going to happen. He is trying to enter battle phase. Rick didn't go like super Sonic the Hedgehog, if that makes
Right.
sense. But yeah, so because the intent was there, the judge ruled in Rick's favor. So
I think that's how they rule it too in modern. I've heard that if basically you were going to attack in this moment and time happened to be called while you're at that moment, it's the same thing as you just being you're in battle phase. Basically, also, I think that this situation you just named is very special. I was expecting you to say more about the Super Poly. You can't respond to that card. So, like,
right.
Rick could have just went draw. I'm entering battle phase. Activate Super Poly.
Yeah.
Like I'm in battle phase. Activate Super Poly. Game's over. Like attack. I don't need a main. I don't even need to use my main phase. I'm just enter battle phase. Like I'm not taking any actions in my main phase. I'm going straight to battle phase. Draw. Battle phase. Is that good?
And there's a million things the opponent can do. I don't think he had a back row, but in modern you could be like, well, let me think on standby main,
right?
All that stuff.
And I think that's what you just said there. When people start acting like they're thinking on standby and all that stuff, if it's clear that there's not a real thing for you to be doing at that time, then I think the judges usually let you go into battle phase. Like you just made me stop to consider MSTing your own back row or something weird like that. It's like, that's not a real play that has any effect on the game. Like if you're just going to MST your set soul exchange to try to prevent me from getting my battle phase, I think that the intent there is also kind of like, I don't know if that's flat out considered cheating to do that, but it's definitely shady tactics to be like, oh, I'm going to Raigeki break and target my own card just to keep you in like the phase that you're in so that you don't get to battle phase or whatnot. Right. I think that is, and that goes back to like the topic of etiquette. Is just, that's also scummy. Like I don't want to ever have to get to the point of doing that to people. Something else that came up, I'm not going to name names, but there's a really, really talented player from Europe who was recommending to me that I side deck a card for time that I told him after I let him explain it and everything like that. He was like, Frogs go into time often in a mirror match, and Frogs can go into time in general. Frogs is also one of the best decks in time. That's just a fact. It has Unifrog, it has the dupe block, so it can prevent you from attacking completely. And then it can attack you directly no matter what with a fucking Frog. So Frogs is like probably the best deck in time out of every single deck in the format when I really think about it, just because of the fact that the dupe block exists and Unifrog exists, and they all come from the same thing. So he was recommending like, oh, the Frog mirror match is really annoying and it goes into time in person and all this other stuff. And I was like, I do agree. Like Frogs mirror matches in person do take a while. And honestly, I timed them, and what I was testing with somebody recently, there's no way to speed it up because both players can be making actual plays the entire time, and it still just takes long, especially Dream Frogs. And that's the one where I really noticed how bad it can get because you dupe block each other multiple times and just kind of wait. But he was saying you should side this card for time. And I thought about it and I told him, I was like, I think that is really bad. I don't want to do that because to me, it just feels scummy. I don't want Edison to become what modern is or was. There was a point where in modern, as you all know, or may not know it actually, that people were just siding for time and they would go first game 3 and they would spend like, because they can take a long time on their turns anyway. They would spend like the last 5 minutes of their turn comboing off, and at the end of the combo, they would essentially send to the graveyard a monster that burns you or gains life or does something along those lines and win the game without the opponent ever being able to interact with them in game 3 outside of maybe drawing a hand trap. And so bringing that type of mindset into Edison never sat right with me, because I think that as a society, as an Edison community, we don't have, as far as I know, people blatantly siding cards for time yet. I don't want to be the person to usher that in, because I feel like, again, I think it's kind of scummy. I also don't think that Edison needs that at all. Like I think that our games, we could just finish our games in 45 minutes. Like I think we could finish most of our games in 45 minutes. I also said that I don't want that reputation on myself. Like,
yeah,
I don't want...
you seem like such a scumbag if you do that. Everyone's going to talk about
it. Exactly. If I sided a card, if people saw me siding in this card for this exact situation, like, oh, I'm going in a time, I side in this card, it could be an auto win too. Like in theory, it makes sense. If you draw it, it is pretty much an auto win in the situation that modern players find themselves in, bringing it in Edison. But like, I didn't need that to win already, and I don't think... like you as well, like you've won 2 Edison tournaments now, 2 majors, and you've never decided anything for time either. And so it's just kind of like, I don't want to tarnish my reputation.
I don't think I've ever gone into time.
Oh my god.
Maybe once. I mean, I'm not playing Frogs, but yeah.
Yeah, you play Value, yeah.
I've been meaning to say, Playing for time is a skill that every other card game I feel like emphasizes a lot more than Yu-Gi-Oh, and I don't know why Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't emphasize it as much. You have to
Playing
make your
for
plays
time?
fat. Like
Oh, okay.
playing so you don't like.
To not go
Yes.
into it. Okay, I thought you meant like playing
Yes.
so that you do go into time and win it that way.
No, no, you have to like know your lines, obviously, like that helps a lot. You have to tell your opponent to play fast, which is I think
Yes.
the most important thing. People are too scared, I think, in Yu-Gi-Oh, to ask your
Yeah,
opponent to
that's
play
true.
faster, especially when it's like, the round just started, but if they're playing slow, they're playing slow.
Something that the guy at RBET New York, one of the hosts, so it was Keegan and I forget the other guy's name, but he made an announcement towards the end of the tournament, towards the end of the Swiss rounds, and he said, guys, you really got to start playing faster because we're having these disputes that happen where we get into time, the judge comes over and says, what's going on? And then the two guys start arguing, the two players start arguing, saying that, oh, he was slow playing. And it's like, if that was the case, why didn't you call over a judge 20 minutes ago? You know what I mean? Like if you say he's been slow playing the entire round, because that's what they usually say, like, oh, my opponent was slow playing the entire round. This guy's been taking forever. It's like, okay, if that's the case, then you should have called the judge 20-30 minutes ago when you noticed that he was taking forever and it was annoying you. Then don't wait until there's, again, 1 minute on the clock. Now you're trying to become Sonic the Hedgehog to get to the battle phase, and he's saying, oh, I have a response to you doing like 30 actions in 30 seconds. It becomes this whole mess, and then you guys are having this back and forth, and that's kind of what we walked up on. And it was really unfortunate because I get it from both sides. Like I get that as the person who's sitting there watching their opponent take 30 actions, you're like, okay, well, I just want to make sure that like the game state is intact, like the integrity of the game didn't get messed up while you just started throwing cards. Grab your deck. I didn't shuffle. I didn't do anything. And you're just like doing all these actions. So there's that. But then there's also the guy who's like, well, you don't appear to have any response. We all know Edison at this point. Like we don't have a bunch of hand traps and shit like that. So when somebody has a response, you can kind of tell. And when they don't have a response, you can also kind of tell. So if you don't have any back row or whatever, I could just kind of go as fast as I want to. So I get it from both sides. But at the end of the day, the whole thing about, oh, well, like he was slow playing the entire game and why did you wait? And the judge, not the judge, but the host made an announcement. And I said, I agree with that. I agree with him telling everybody to play faster in general instead of waiting until the end.
Yeah, you have to tell your opponent early, like, hey, can you play faster? Because you can't just like out of nowhere 30 minutes into the round be like, judge, my opponent's playing slow. Like that's a dick move in my opinion. So you have to say like,
although what if they did slow down out of, because some people get to a spot and then all of a sudden they do start playing way slower than they were playing. So I could see it being like 30 minutes into the round, they switch into a different gear because now it's kind of crunch time. Maybe the situation is complicated. Some people will be like, oh, well, I had a lot of cards. There's a lot going on. I get that. But that doesn't give you the right to just put the game into a standstill because the situation is complicated. Like, yes, we're allowed to think. That part I'm never against because I'm not even acting like I'm the fastest player in the world because I'm not. I definitely take my time to think about my plays and do things. But again, you have to be considerate that you don't just get to take forever just because, it's a complicated game state. Like you still have to play at a reasonable pace is what they say.
Yeah, and if that 30-minute situation happens, you have to just immediately say, hey, I need you to play faster. And if they still don't, then you can. Then yeah. I feel liberated to call a judge if they haven't played faster yet.
I think I've only ever had to do it like once or twice. Have you ever had to call a judge for that?
Once.
Yeah.
Like was it since bad? Edison started, at least. It wasn't bad, but it was obvious they were trying to stall because it was getting close to time.
He was trying to stall.
Though. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. You have a question?
I have a question for you. When you do your frog loop, if the opponent has a back row, like when you do the substitute combo, when the first one goes off and you're like, is this good? Do you just say, can I just do the whole thing? Or do you go one at a time? Like, I'm going to get Swap Frog's going to dump substitute, I'm going to tribute this again.
As I'm doing it, if you ever watch me do it, and I'm sure that there's multiple people who have seen it by now, but if you're watching me do it, the way I typically go is I grab all my frogs, I put them in the front of my deck, and then I start going. As I'm tributing the Treeborn frogs, I don't ask for any response because there's not really one that you could do. Once I get to Swap Frog, I say Swap Frog effect, is that fine? And then they say yes, and then I say, okay, I'm going to do the rest. Is that okay? And I start doing it all from there. Because to me, the time to respond, if you're even slightly competent, is when Swap Frog activates its effect.
Yep.
If you're not responding to that, I feel like nothing else is really there's no other good time to respond. Anything else is a misplay, blatantly. Like 99% of the time, whatever else you will respond to is a misplay. There are situations though where you can respond in weird ways, but just to keep this conversation simple, the only time you should be responding is when Swap Frog comes out and goes activate effect. If you have like Torrential or whatnot, that's when you would want to do it. Anything else is just like a minus. So, and I think everyone knows that.
I think everyone should do it like that. And I'm not going to say the name, but there was a person at RBT New York who was doing it like that. And then when time was getting closer, they went one at a time.
Oh God, I heard
Yeah.
about this. I'm not going to say the name either,
Oh,
but
you know, okay,
I
yeah,
heard
it's
this. Yeah, Gary let me know. He told me the stories about a certain someone who's kind of known, and they were
mhm.
they were blatantly milking the clock to get into time with the best deck in time, which is frogs. And yeah, I did hear, and I said that's really unfortunate because it's so blatant too. And this is, I guess I didn't think about it like this, but this is also one of the reasons why it's the best deck in time, because you can do scummy stuff like that to get it there. And that's that, yeah, that grossed me out when I heard that, because I always go fast with the substitute thing. Like I never even considered, oh, this is a great opportunity to just milk the clock. But yeah, I
Especially
think
if you've
that's
been doing it normal the whole time.
exactly. Like I saw you do this before, you did it way faster. Now all of a sudden there's a minute left, and now you're going one treeborn frog at a time. Tribute. Second treeborn frog. Uh, yeah, I'll do let me look at my thing. Oh, I can't find the next one. Oh, where's my
Oh
swamp
my
frog?
god, I would
Oh,
be
where is
so
it?
mad
Yeah,
if they
like
did that.
yeah, exactly. So that would like really gross me out. But that's our time, guys. Let us know what you think about time etiquette. Have you ever had a situation where your opponent was slow playing? Have you ever had a situation where somebody rushed you to play faster? Or maybe at the last 30 seconds, things just got really messy between you and opponent? Let us know in the comment section, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.